What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And in this video, I'm going to go over my full card, picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 53, Font versus Vera. First things first, if you can hit that like button for me and make friends with that subscribe button, don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. So UFC Vegas 52 was last night, and I know on paper it didn't look like a good card, but I sat down and I watched it all. And I'll be honest, it kept me more entertained than I thought it would, but it still wasn't that good of a card. I did end up going 7-4 on my picks, and I won plus 0.56 units profit. So technically, that makes 3 winning fight cards in a row. And I know we haven't won too much units on those fight cards, but hey, profit is profit. But I do like this card coming up for betting, so hopefully we can get over 2 or 3 units profit this week. The highlights for me for UFC Vegas 52 were the 3 submissions by Jourdain, Puelles, and Andrade. So I was super excited for the Jourdain-Vannata fight. I thought it was going to be a striker versus striker showdown, go all 3 rounds, and just be a bloody war. But it looked like Vannata came to wrestle, and he got caught with his pants down, and he got caught with a one-arm guillotine, and it was a very impressive submission by Jourdain. And speaking of impressive, Puelles' third knee bar in his career was a thing of beauty. So he's the only UFC fighter in history to have more than 1 knee bar, and now he has 3. And that was the quickest transition to a knee bar that I think I've ever seen. And another thing for our UFC first is a standing triangle choke by Andrade, which was pretty cool to see. But again, I kind of wanted to see both of them slug it out for like 3 or 4 or 5 rounds. But again, didn't happen. And good win for Andrade. She took what Lainesse gave her, and she ended up getting the first standing triangle in UFC history. So like I said, not the greatest card, but it did have its moments. Alright, so let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 53. The first fight we have is Alexander Romanov versus Chase Sherman. Romanov is 15-0, 31 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. And Sherman is 15-9, 32 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. So this fight was supposed to happen last card, but here we go again, and no surprise here, but I'm going to go with Romanov to win. So this is going to be an easy fight to break down. Romanov is going to have the better wrestling, and honestly, he might even have the better striking. But let's be honest, all he needs to do to get an easy way to get this fight to the mat and either get a submission or a ground and pound victory. But if Romanov wants his test to stand up against Sherman, this is a good opportunity for him to, because I don't think Sherman's going to be able to get a knockout or anything. So if he does want to stand up and show off his striking, it might take a little bit longer, but I do think he'll eventually catch Sherman. So with my pick, I'm going to say Romanov wins by pretty much however he wants. Next fight we have is Tatsuro Taira versus Carlos Candelario. Tatsuro is 10-0, 22 years old, 5'7", and I'm not sure his reach. And Candelario is 8-1, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 67-inch reach. In this fight, I'm going to go with Tatsuro to win this one. So both guys are making their UFC debut, and although Candelario is older and may have the more experience, I really like Tatsuro in this matchup. Tatsuro is a finisher, he has really good grappling, and he has pretty good striking as well. And Candelario is more of a boxer. He does have okay wrestling as well, but make no mistake about it, he wants to keep this fight standing. And the big red flag for me is Candelario's takedown defense is 47%, and I think Tatsuro will be able to get the takedowns whenever he wants. And if that happens, I can see either a submission real quick or even a ground and pound finish. So with my pick, I'm going to say Tatsuro wins this one by submission. Moving on up the card, we have Gina Mazany versus Shanna Young. Mazany is 7-5, 33 years old, 5'6", with a 68.5-inch reach. And Young is 7-4, 31 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach. Alright, so it pains me to have to even pick one of these fighters because I don't think either one of these fighters are UFC material. But I'm gonna say that Mazany wins this one. I just think Mazany is the little bit more well-rounded fighter. I think she has the better wrestling, she has really good takedowns, and she does have power in her hands. And with Young, she's mainly just a striker, and she's not the greatest on the mat if she gets taken down. But I think Mazany will be able to get the takedowns whenever she wants, and if that does happen, I can see her grinding out a decision win or maybe getting a ground and pound knockout. So with my pick though, I'm going to say Mazany wins by decision. Next fight we have is Mike Breeden versus Nathan Levy. Breeden is 10-4, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. And Levy is 6-1, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach. So with my pick in this one, I'm going to say Levy wins. So both guys lost their UFC debuts their last fight. And I will say Breeden might have a slight advantage in the striking department, but in the grappling department, it's going to be Levy's advantage all day here. Levy does have decent striking, but he's more of a submission guy and he wants to take this fight to the mat. And I do think that's going to be the clear path to victory for him. He just needs to get this fight to the mat and work his submissions. And if that does happen, I can see him getting the submission win here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Levy wins by submission. Next fight we have is Lainesse versus Gabe Green. Johan is 8-0, 29 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. And Green is 10-3, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. So this is going to be a fun fight, and with my pick, I'm going to say Lainesse wins this one. So both guys are really good strikers, but I will give Lainesse the power advantage. Lainesse is a finisher, and he looked really good in his Dana White Contender Series win. And Green does have good striking too, but he tends to fade a little bit as the fight goes on, and he is very hittable, averaging over 7 strikes absorbed per minute. But in this fight, I just think Lainesse is going to be the more dangerous striker here, and I do think he's going to be able to find that chin eventually. So with my pick, I'm going to say Lainesse wins this one by second round knockout. Next fight we have is Daniel De Silva versus Francisco Figueiredo. De Silva is 11-2, 25 years old, 5'6", with a 70-inch reach. And Figueiredo is 12-4-1, 32 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach. So this is going to be a very close fight, and I've been going back and forth with this one, but I ended up picking Figueiredo to win. And looking over both these guys, I'm not that impressed with either one of them, but I will give Figueiredo the wrestling and grappling advantage. And I do think if he's able to use the wrestling and either keep De Silva up against the cage or get some takedowns here, I do think he'll be able to grind out a decision win. De Silva does have good striking, and I would give him the advantage, but I just don't like his takedown defense. And the path to victory is there for Figueiredo. So with my pick, I'm going to say Figueiredo wins this one by decision. All right, moving on up the card, we have Meerschaert versus Krzysztof Jotko. Meerschaert is 34-14, 34 years old, 6'1", with a 77.5-inch reach. And Jotko is 23-5, 32 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach. So this is going to be a fun fight here, but I'm going to go with the underdog, and I'm going to say Meerschaert wins this one. So we all know that Meerschaert has really good grappling and really good submissions, but in his last few fights, his striking has come along a little bit. And Jotko is a good technical striker, and he's pretty well-rounded, but he just doesn't have the same grappling as Meerschaert. And another thing for me is Meerschaert never gives up, and he's always in the fight with that submission game. And the way I see this fight playing out, I do think Meerschaert's the more dangerous fighter. I don't think Jotko is going to be able to take out Meerschaert, and I do think Meerschaert will eventually be able to get the takedown and maybe take his back and get the rear naked choke. So with my pick, I'm going to say Meerschaert wins this one by submission. Next fight we have is Darren Elkins versus Tristan Connelly. Elkins is 26-10, 37 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. And Connelly is 14-7, 36 years old, 5'10", with a 68-inch reach. So I always love watching Darren Elkins fights because I like his style and he's from my neck of the woods. And with that being said, I'm going to say Elkins wins this one. So I know Elkins didn't look that great against Cub Swanson, but let's be honest, he's not the greatest against power strikers, and Cub Swanson caught him a few times really good, and he just couldn't take anymore. But with Connelly, I don't think he's that much of a KO threat. And Connelly does have decent grappling himself, but Elkins is going to be the better wrestler. I think he has the better cardio, and I think he'll be able to implement his style, and that's just to grind on him and wear him down. And I do think he'll be able to get top control for most of the fight, and maybe even end up getting a submission late. So with my pick, I'm going to say Elkins wins this one by decision. Next fight we have is Jared Gordon versus Grant Dawson. Gordon is 18-4, 33 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach. And Dawson is 17-1-1, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. With my pick, I'm going to say Dawson wins. So this fight's going to be interesting because both these guys are kind of the same fighter, but I do think Dawson's just a little bit better in each category. But I will say though, Dawson does have better submissions than Gordon. And the way I see this fight playing out is I think it just depends on who's going to be the fighter to implement their wrestling game plan first. And whoever gets the takedowns is going to win this fight. If the fight does stay standing for whatever reason, it's going to be competitive, but I do like Dawson like I said earlier. So with my pick, I'm going to say Dawson wins this one by a close decision. Moving on up the card, we have Fili versus Joanderson Brito. Fili is 21-8, 31 years old, 5'11 with a 74-inch reach. And Brito is 12-3-1, 27 years old, 5'8 with a 72-inch reach. So in this matchup, I got Fili to win. So both guys like to go for takedowns in the fight. But for me, the one little red flag is Brito's gas tank. And after the first round, he tends to fade pretty hard. Both guys do have decent striking, but I will give Fili the edge in that. And although Brito might look good in the first round, and he may even end up winning that round, I just think Fili's going to be able to take over in the second and third round when Brito's gas tank empties. So with my pick, I'm going to say Fili wins this one by a decision. Alright, co-main event time here. We have Jake Collier versus Arlovski. Collier is 13-6, 33 years old, 6'3 with a 78.5-inch reach. And Arlovski is 33-20, 43 years old, 6'3 with a 77-inch reach. So I know both these guys don't scream co-main event by any means, but this should be a pretty good fight. And I'm going to go with the legend himself, and I'm going to say Arlovski wins this one. So I'm sure a lot of people remember Collier's last win against Chase Sherman where he looked like Ryan Hall out there. But it was Chase Sherman, and that dude is a trash can. Arlovski's going to be way better than that. And in Arlovski's last few fights, his striking has looked very good. Collier does have good striking himself, but I don't think he's as technical as Arlovski. And another thing I like about Arlovski is he moves left and right all the time, so he's never going to be in one spot. Collier can try to take this fight to the mat like he did in his last one, but I just think Arlovski's going to be way better and way quicker than him. And the way I see this fight playing out is I do think it's going to be on the feet. It's going to be a striker showdown, and Arlovski will be able to win the first 2 rounds and probably play it safe in the third like he usually does. So with my pick, I'm going to say Arlovski wins a very close decision. All right, main event time here. We have Rob Font versus Marlon Vera. Font is 19-5, 34 years old, 5'8 with a 71.5-inch reach. And Vera is 27-1, 29 years old, 5'8 with a 70.5-inch reach. Alright, so this is the fight that I'm looking forward to the most on this card. And I was going back and forth with this one, but I ended up picking Vera to get the upset win here. So both guys are really good strikers in their own right. Font is the more technical boxer, and Vera is the more unorthodox kickboxer that likes to use spinning kicks and knees. On the mat, I will give Vera the advantage with his grappling and wrestling. And for me, that's what Vera needs to do. I do think he needs to try to get this fight to the mat because Font's takedown defense is not that great. If he does want to test Font's striking, I think he'll be okay and it'll be pretty competitive because Font's not much of a KO threat. But I do think this fight plays out one of 2 ways. It's going to be Font outpointing Vera for 5 rounds, or Vera is going to be able to get the finish. And with my pick, I think Vera is going to be able to get the finish, maybe take his back in some weird exchange, and get the submission win. Alright guys, so those are my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 53. Thank you everybody for watching, and on your way out, please hit that like button for me. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, and until next time, happy fight night.